Hi, this is Missionary Oetker here in the Reynosa, Mexico. I'd like to continue on God's promises. Genesis 3:15 talks about how that God is going to send someone in the future to totally crush the power of evil. I want to draw your attention to a couple of points about this statement, this promise from God. Everything that we as humans could possibly do with a God that we have no idea really of His power or His magnitude. We cannot begin in any way to understand anything about God, His creative power, the universe, everything. We're only able to see a very narrow picture through the Bible about certain characteristics about God, and the only way we can know for sure is by the words of Jesus Christ and by the historical record that we have in the Old Testament of what God did, so we are aware of His powers. So in Genesis 3:15, the whole idea of creation by God makes His promise that He's going to send someone into the future, that is, send someone in the future that is going to crush this controlling power that now Adam and Eve are subject to. This power that's in their life, this original sin, their disobedience to God, now controlled their life. They yielded to this temptation. Adam disobeyed God. And by him disobeying God, he was unable to return to the presence of God in the Garden of Eden. So he was cast forth, and as the story reads, he had to work, and Adam Eve was going to have great pains at childbirth. So, again, we read that God is going to send someone in the future that's going to crush this controlling power, this original sin that was passed down to every man since Adam, to all the people in the world except Christ. Now, anything that man has to do with God has to be God-orientated to begin with. God has to have a plan for us to communicate with Him. And if we're going to work with a God, then God has to reach down and help us to be able to do that. We could never do it in our own strength. We could never believe in a God as described in the Bible. We could never understand that. And we're just finite. We cannot. So, God gives to us what theologians call grace. Grace that enables us to do what God wants us to be able to do. He helps us to accomplish His will in our life in regards to Him. An example would be if I went to work for someone and he wanted me to make let's say a cabinet, and I walked into his factory and there was nothing in his factory, nothing, nada. And I said, well, mister, how do you expect me to make something? There's nothing here. Oh, he says, just a minute. He takes me to another factory, and there's all the equipment, all the training guides, the training classes before, to show me how to do everything. So eventually I will be able to make the cabinet that he desires I make. Similarly, in a rough kind of way, God's grace. God gives us that enabling factor to do exactly what God says and to believe what God says. Now, can we see God? No. But we can read of God through the Bible, through Christ, and the apostles, evangelists, and the prophets. We have to communicate with God, and we can directly through faith. Faith In other words, believing on something we don't see. Now, I, for one, can whine and cry about my situation as a missionary and just be pathetic at times. But yet I know deep down inside when I'm finished with my whining and crying that it's only by faith that I can receive from God. And it's that faith, and in that faith, God's grace comes to me and enables me to believe what I'm asking in faith for. It's God totally helping me. Ayudar, that's Spanish for helping me. Okay? God does that. So, let's talk now a little bit about the word grace. And if you see me looking over here, I have a clock on the wall, so I'm trying to catch the time here for this video. Grace. Now we know that the Christians here know that grace is God's love for us. We do not earn it. We don't do anything for it. God just gives to us. He loves us that much. He gives it to us. He gave it to us while we're rotten sinners. Grace. Okay? Now, Richard Trench, a commentator on the Bible, in BlueLetterBible.com writes, when talking about grace and how to talk about grace, he mentions that it's a property within God. Well, I think I want to describe to you, my YouTube audience, a very few, my opinions about something that is overlooked about this word grace. When we think about grace, sometimes we're thinking about the generally held Christian belief that God's love and favor for us. Kind of like, and mind you, just kind of like a good mother to her son. Oh, my nice little son, I'll help you. I know that at school you're going to have a little problem, maybe with the classes or with the bully, but I'm going to help you, and gives you a little pat on the head because Mama loves you no matter if you're good or bad. And that's kind of the way we see grace sometimes. That God's always going to be there, always loving us, always giving everything we want. And that's how we see grace. And just to contrast that, sin. How do we see sin? Again, in the Christian world, when you look up sin, you'll see, oh, it's missing the mark. A man missing the mark. So we get this idea that somehow man is, if I give this example, man, let's say he's in church, and the pastor, the preacher says, well, come on up here, John. We know that you've missed the mark. We know you're a good man. You're a good father. You're a good moral citizen. You support, you pay your taxes. You're a good person, but we know you missed the mark in this one little area about God. So come on up here and you can become a Christian and clear this up about missing the mark with this about God. Now, you'd be surprised how many people really believe this about sin and about grace. Now, I need to stop here and take a look at my video.